think we're good.
Yeah, we should.
9:59.
Andy, you and Crystal.
Still hasn't changed.
When you're ready.
Okay,
She's transit.
we're live.
We are live.
All right. I'd like to resume the November 13th, 2023 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. And we will turn the podium over to our friends from Morpsey. William, welcome. And if you could introduce everybody for the record since we're recording this.
Will do. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm William Murdoch. I'm the Executive Director of the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Our friends call us Morpsey. With me today, I have Joe Garrity, who's our Senior Director of Government Affairs and Community Engagement, and a very familiar face, Eileen Luby, who's our Membership Services Officer. And we're here today to provide you an update on all of the activities Morpsey's doing, both in the region but also for Delaware County. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get into it. Well, first, Commissioners, it goes without saying that your involvement and your leadership in our organization means a lot. And Commissioner Benton, I know that you serve on our executive committee. Commissioner Merrill has. Before, all of you have been engaged in different committees and conversations, and Delaware's place in the region.
And don't forget our administrator.
I'm sorry, my goodness. And last but not least, your administrator, Tracy Davies, who knows us from a number of communities and now is at Delaware County doing incredible work. That voice is important in the region. And whether it's Columbus or some of the small villages or the communities in Delaware County, you're helping to shape us to make sure we're serving them better, but we're also working to serve your residents better. So thank you for that. That means a lot to us. Today we wanted to give you an update on our work and some of the things and how it connects. So first, we always start with the entities we serve. And our region's 2.4 million people. We now serve, as of actually Thursday, 86 local governments. Rural, urban, suburban. Delaware County encompasses all three of those types. And we help the region with transportation, development support, planning, data, research, housing policy, and we're a key partner to business entities and nonprofits throughout the region. So this is what we do for you, and when you look at that map, you can see that's changed over the years, and in part because of your leadership, most of the region is now at the table, and that makes a difference when you're trying to help Central Ohio advance. Everything we do is through our goals, and as Commissioner Benton knows very well, we've been talking about our strategic framework and how we're paying it forward. So we're investing in public service, in our communities, building capacity. We're always focused on that ROI for our communities so that you're seeing a return on what you're investing into Morpsey's activities. And we've been very focused on driving investment to projects that we need to get ready for growth, to handle our problems today, and of course to create that environment for prosperity. We talk about regional growth, and this year we updated our population forecast for Central Ohio through 2050, and it's a little bit higher. We're expected to grow from a region of 2.4 million people to about 3.15 million people by 2050. That's about 5% more than it was the last time we came to talk to you. When you look at some of the major economic development announcements, certainly right on the cusp of Delaware County is the Intel project, but there are project after project both in the county and around the county that's driving this growth to be a little bit faster than it was before. When we look specifically at Delaware County, just looking at 2022, we see that you had over 2,000 births, over 1,500 deaths, but that net migration number is really strong. Those 10-year trends, I think, are interesting. We're still waiting to, as we come out of 2020 and 2021, to see where things settle, but we are in the middle of a long-term decline in the birth rate, and so we're watching that carefully. But for Delaware County, that net migration from the region and beyond is really strong. And so when we look at your population forecast through 2050, we see you growing pretty significantly through 2050. And that growth is something that we're checking in on every year. And of course, this is not news to the county at all. You've been planning and getting ready for growth. When we look at Delaware County in relation to some of these major projects, again, not a surprise, but sometimes it's helpful to display it graphically. When you look at that map, Intel is right in the middle of that blue circle. Those are 20-minute travel times from that site. So you can see that your entire county is within about 40 minutes of that major investment. Just for purposes of comparison, there's a major investment in Franklin County called Hyperion, one in Delaware County, or in Fayette County, that is with LG and Honda. The point is, you're close to all of these major investments. So even if they're not happening right in the county, the people looking to move to the region and looking for great communities to live in, suppliers, other projects will be looking to Delaware County because they're looking for high quality of life and high quality public services. One of the things to get ready for growth that you know very well is regional water collaboration. And just recently, we've been talking with your county administrator, Tracy Davies, to talk about how MORPC is working with the region to get ready for this. So at our October commission meeting, we announced that we're partnering with the Ohio EPA and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to look at all 15 counties, to look at where there are gaps in supply, to look at issues that businesses have been focused on, like groundwater recharge, looking at utilities, looking at ways that we can make sure that we have the water supply we need for now and going into the future. It's a large study. We've been in the water study business for a while. This is much more comprehensive than we've done before, but the region hasn't had a look like this before. It's currently going through the RFP process, and we expect this to be started and perhaps finished next year. So it's going to move very quickly, which we hope is right in tandem with all of the conversations about what does the region need, how can we get in front of it. Again, the county's been very thoughtful, forward-thinking with it and its partners. This is information, though, that could really help feed into that and build on what you've done. So a lot more to come on that. And I should say, actually, you're very fortunate to have Tracy Davies, who knows knows this business just about better than any other administrator in Central Ohio. So thank you, Tracy, for your leadership and your advice on this. Another thing that communities are talking about when it comes to growth is getting the capacity they need. Certainly, we've seen some communities struggle with things as simple as retirement or sometimes a slew of applications all at once. And we've developed a program to help them in ways we haven't before. So all of your communities, of course, are eligible for technical assistance, where we go and we help pay for a consultant to do a plan. But recently, we introduced what's called the Consultant Services Program and the Planner Pool Program. And the simple way to think about this is we're working with communities now who don't know exactly what they need, or know they need consultant help quickly. And we're working to expedite procurement. We're working to connect them with pre-approved consultants. The private sector is happy about it because it's smoothing that process too. The planner pool is where we've hired a number of planners so we can loan them to communities as they need them. So you can imagine a situation where one of your villages has a planner retire unexpectedly, they need help. We may be able to loan them an employee for a short period. So we're pretty excited about this. We just rolled it out here this fall. A number of communities are really interested. So it's a way that we can flex to help communities, give them a little bit more capacity. You know us for transportation. Certainly with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, when I think of the partnerships from the city of Delaware, on down that list that you see, the county engineer's office and more, you've been so engaged and important to these discussions. You know that we're right in the middle of the update to what's called our long-range plan, or the MTP. So this is something we're looking at draft strategies and projects right now. We know too that we've been key partners in the Route 23 Connect study. We know that's moving to its next phase with ODOT, and we'll be there to help to see how they can move some of those ideas forward. We know that's a major priority for the county and the region. This is one that MORPC helped to fund a study, even with our partners in Toledo contributing for that first phase. So all eyes on how we can improve this for the county in a way that is supportive of the county's goals. And we're actually working with a consultant and ODOT right now on that. Remember that map I just showed you, the 40-minute drive time? There's a stakeholder group and a planner that's been hired to look at the transportation needs to connect the Intel site, and certainly most of the county is affected by that as well. So that's all happening at the same time. We had a big announcement this fall when it comes to economic development. That map you see there is what is the nation's newest economic development district. And your first question may be, don't we already have one Columbus? And yes, we do. We're a key partner with them. We're there, think of us as their local government partner to their private sector work. This is a federal designation, and why this is important, and I know Monica can probably tell you a little bit more. This is a tool that the federal government does to give us additional access to training, loans for businesses, sometimes grants for communities on everything from infrastructure to economic development. We've been working with One Columbus for years to get the designation, and we finally pulled that down here in September. So we're excited to move forward with that, and we've hired a new economic development director whose job it is to connect with you and see what opportunities we've been missing. So Columbus and its region had never gone for this before, so we're pretty excited about it. You know, too, that we work on competitive advantage, and I believe we'll be coming out here shortly to refresh that list. Actually, our new economic development director is the one leading the charge. This is where we look at projects that you need for economic development, that are infrastructure, that might not fit perfectly into a box, that might need additional assistance, whether it's grant writing or looking for funding in different financial models. So this is something we've been doing for a number of years, and we're looking forward to updating your list soon. We also have been very engaged in trails and housing and these things that are about health and about quality of life. What's really fun when we think of Delaware County and your engagement on the trails piece, we've been working on a piece called Trail Towns, which has involved a number of the villages along the Ohio to Erie Trail and looking at economic development and how it connects to the trail. And it's served as a model where we're introducing it to other parts of the region too. So great involvement from communities like Sunbury and Galena. You know, we've been working on passenger rail for a while. I'd hope to have the answer to this question, did we get it today? But the federal government is expected to announce in November, maybe December, whether or not we can move forward with the next steps on passenger rail through central Ohio. So Cleveland, Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh, Columbus, Chicago. This is an exciting opportunity. Since last we talked, the state of Ohio actually made one of the applications for Cleveland to Cincinnati, but they also added the Chicago to Columbus, Pittsburgh route to what's called the State Rail Plan. So with the state's support moving forward, we're hoping that the Federal Railroad Administration gives us that green light to do the next piece of the study, which are things that are really relevant to the county. How much, how fast, where will the station be? Certainly when we look around the region, if there's a route from Columbus to Cleveland with a couple major stops, it would make sense to have one in Delaware County. So assuming that moves forward, there'll be a lot of engagement to talk about what that possibility might be. So stay tuned. We also have been talking a lot about a program that we don't run but is available from the Ohio Rail Development Commission. Dangerous rail crossings have money from the state available in the largest amount they've ever had, and it can pull down federal funds for railroad crossings. So we know that the county engineer is aware of this, but so you're aware, we've been talking to every village, every city to make sure that we're not leaving anything off that list, because this is a moment where we have significant funds available. With that, if it's all right, I'd like to bring up Joe Garrity, our Senior Director of Government Affairs and Community Relations, to talk through a couple key policy pieces.
Thank you, William, and good morning, Commissioners. It's good to be with all of you today. So one big priority for the Ohio General Assembly right now is the state capital budget. And so a key deadline that is approaching this month is November 17th. The Columbus Partnership puts together a prioritization list for the region in regards to key sites for investment for the capital budget. So in regards to the county, I really encourage you to submit projects to that committee. MORPC sits on it and will be sure to advocate on your behalf. What makes it more interesting this year is the deadline for the House is on December 18th to submit a project, while on the Senate side, it is later in April. In addition to that, What was passed in the operating budget earlier in the year is a one-time strategic community investment fund of $700 million. I'll be sure to share the guidance for this. The dollars are more flexible. You can't utilize these funds for pilot projects or operations costs, and on the Senate side, you can't utilize these funds for land banking. But it's a unique opportunity if there's a key project in Delaware County that may not fit within the scope of a capital budget. It's just another unique opportunity for the county moving forward. We were also really pleased in the operating budget to raise and advocate for local governments the competitive bidding threshold from $50,000 to $75,000, and then and then I think starting in 2025 it can increase up to 3% annually. And then one item we're also advocating through the Strategic Community Investment Fund is working to help our communities who are experiencing growth and providing a planning for growth grant in regards to workforce or housing as well. And then on this slide, you'll see our public policy agenda that is updated every 2 years and is led by our Regional Policy Roundtable, which is chaired by Mayor David Scheffler of Lancaster. We also facilitate a group called the Central Ohio Defense Group. This is working to elevate our unique defense assets. We're also members of an association, a federal association called the Association of Defense Communities. I was at their annual conference last week. When you think about these installations at the 121st Air Refueling Wing, as well as the Defense Supply Center, it accounts for about 10,000 jobs in Central Ohio. So one, it's an economic asset, and then two, we just had a Veterans Day over the weekend. It's a way to support our men and women in the armed services and really trying to allow them to focus on their mission while we support them do that. And one item we're looking into, and we actually have a meeting tomorrow with Colonel Powers, who's the new commander of the 121st, is how can we better procure services to that site. And one item that we're really looking at is an intergovernmental support agreement, which helps procure services to the installation while allowing a revenue generator for our local governments. A key example or an easy example is when there's snow, you need someone to plow it, and a nearby community could do that for them rather than having to cut red tape and work with the Pentagon. We also lead a group called the Columbus Region Coalition. This is a group of 16 different regional partners advocating for one voice. Think of it in a lot of ways as the advocacy arm for competitive advantage projects. So every year we meet with our congressional delegation, and whether it's working to advocate for a key competitive grant or in regards to congressional directed spending, rather than competing against one another, we are working together to bring back strategic investment back to Central Ohio. And then from a drive investment perspective, every Monday from 1 p.m. To 1:30, Dr. Todd Bradley, our regional investment officer, hosts an event that we call Money Mondays. And so whether it's rural housing or Appalachian regional initiatives for stronger economies, we really try to get in the weeds for different funding opportunities that can have a major impact to our local government leaders here in the region. It's also a really unique opportunity to share best practices amongst our communities. And then we have a unique partnership with Ohio University. We have an event coming up on Wednesday, November 29th on governing essentials. This has been really impactful for different local government leaders here in the region. I believe it's the third year in a row that we've been doing this, and so that starts here on November 29th. And then this is more for our local government governing essentials for local elected officials as well. With that, I will turn it back to Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you, Joe. And just a few items of follow-up. We've been really focused on our rural communities. looking at different ways we can bring them together. And so we hold a series every year where each quarter we're looking at things like rural mobility, rural housing, even trails and tourism. So this has been a great opportunity to make sure that the smaller communities are being connected into some of the regional initiatives. We've got a few fun things. We're recognizing some outgoing folks at our Morpsey Commission holiday luncheon, so you're welcome to come early. We'll feed you lunch. Certainly, Tom Homan, I think, is going to be on the list of folks from the city to be recognized. But then we'll have our employees together as kind of open office hours. We always try to bring in major community leaders. In February's commission, we have the head of the Columbus Regional Airport Authority. If you've been following the news, you know that they're looking at a complete rebuild of their terminal. And from an economic development standpoint, that is an enormous undertaking with potentially huge benefits. As a tourist, it's also a great thing, too, to have a better airport facility, and he's going to share all of the work going into that. And then Eileen will tell you, we had 51 interns in our summer program. We started with Pay It Forward. We're finishing with Pay It Forward, including 2 in the county, 1 in the city of Delaware, 1 in the city of Powell. This is where we connect local government to intern talent for the summer. Many of these get hired into full-time positions and do some good work while they're there. So we're very proud of the program. Last thing, return on investment. We provide that annual letter looking at all the things that we're working on with you to make sure you're getting everything. And this slide, I think the year's wrong there. Certainly we're very proud of 2021, but the letter's about 2022. Certainly a lot of benefit for the county, and if you have suggestions, we're always welcome. And with that, Commissioners, happy to take questions again. Thank you for being such important members of Morpsey and such important leaders in the region.
Well, thank you, William. Great to see everyone. Appreciate you coming up and updating us. I'll open it up for questions. Tracy, Dawn, saw Eric come back in. Obviously, fellow commissioners. I have a couple, but I'll let them go first.
Okay.
Well, just the observation I think we make every year is the interchanges on 71 are extremely important to this county. And frankly, with development of Intel in a neighboring county, it's going to be very important. So we need full court press, as you well know, stating the obvious. And of course, 23, does work on that as well. And there's no end to the number of projects in our county that need attention that the county by itself can't perform.
Thank you for saying that, Commissioner. And certainly with track and competitive advantage, those interchanges are important. This 40-minute travel study with ODOT from the Intel site, certainly there will be a lot of focus on all of the bridges and widenings and connections that might be missing that could affect the county. So we are very much invested in on that same page of making sure we're getting in front of the growth. So thanks.
And just one last thing, Big Walnut interchange, it's a secondary benefit there. It takes the traffic out of the Polaris area that is just trying to get home from work. And that benefits Columbus as well as obviously our county. So everybody benefits from that as well. But obviously priority number 1 is the interchange at 36, 37.
Yeah, very much so. Yep.
I'll just second that, and thank you so much for all you've done, especially on the transportation side with Intel, and then being the fastest growing county in the state, constantly. And so now we face even bigger challenges with Intel and the 3-tiered suppliers coming in, and so thank you for all your help in the past, and look forward to your help in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I think with all of the growth, the economic development support we may be able to give to will be helpful. And I say this with all, I'm not blowing smoke at you, but having attended your county event earlier this year with all of the things that's happening, when I look around Central Ohio and think of counties that are prepared, you're certainly doing quite a bit. So we talk about you to other counties, if that's helpful. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a few questions, and maybe a couple of them are just interested in a little more detail. You mentioned Rapid 5, and that is the 5 major waterways that go through Central Ohio. 4 of those go through Delaware County. So if you could just talk about where that is going, what its mission is in a little more detail. I think that'd be helpful to everybody.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So Rapid 5 started as a design initiative during the pandemic to look at how we could connect our waterways in different ways, how we could connect it to things like economic development or housing and give communities access they didn't have before. In the last year, Morpsey's continued to support that initiative. I think we all know the former director, Amy Acton, accomplished a lot. She set up a nonprofit to move it forward. She was able to do some significant fundraising, stepped aside, and now that entity is moving to its next step. And what's exciting and relevant for Delaware County is just recently their board has decided to set up a regional land trust. So this is a land conservancy trust. So this is an opportunity to work with communities to ensure that land is connected into projects in different ways, to look at ways we can get the private sector more involved with this, and to think of this regionally as what do our communities need to make their plans happen. So what they're about to do is set up this new vehicle to do that. They're about to hire a new executive director. And Morpsey's been working with them specifically on what local governments around the region might need to get their trail projects done, to make them more relevant. And with that vision, it's expanded outside of that core area. So we anticipate in the coming year, a new director, this new strategy will be something that communities in Delaware County will have access to, which is pretty exciting. I know that even the city of Delaware already did a Rapid 5 type initiative looking at their own corridors. We know the interest from the communities in the southern part of the county is really strong. So a lot more to come, but I think the quick summary is it went from a design exercise to what could be a really powerful tool to help preserve, conserve, connect these waterways in ways that are relevant beyond just that core part.
Relatively new topic, I guess maybe a relatively new important topic in economic development, that is power. I know we're working on a whole bunch of economic development initiatives, water being a key one, a critical one, certainly. But in the last week or two, we've lost a really attractive deal because we weren't able to provide power to an area of the county where that was going to locate. And so I'm just interested in your awareness, observations. I know Monica, our economic development director, and Tracy are working on some ideas, but it seems to kind of leapfrog water almost in terms of priority, and that is generating enough power for these significant users of power that are the targets of economic development for Delaware County and the region. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and I don't have all the answers to it, but I do.
Does at this point.
Yeah, I know. I know there's lots of good minds being put towards it. From an economic development perspective, this is something we've heard too recently has emerged as, in addition to water affecting potential deals, and that's a big concern. I know specifically, speaking of energy utilities, in the past and currently we've been working with some communities more on natural gas availability. We have some counties in the region who lack that access and have been facing economic development slowdowns because they don't have that access. We haven't done the same when it comes to electricity. So this is something that I think is an emerging issue that we can look at. There might be some opportunities when we think of things like competitive advantage, when we think about potential federal programs that might be available, state policies, but that's something that I again, don't have the answers, but I know this is something we care deeply about. And if I can pause for a second, Joe, is there anything pending that we know of from the state that is looking at this issue? And if not, we can find out.
Yeah, I would have to do some digging.
Okay, we'll do some follow-up on that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, again, just wanted to make sure you're aware that this is becoming an extremely important issue, and we thought power was going to be one of the more or less of a priority in terms of expanding, but it is moving up to a top priority.
Thank you for
Then
that.
last two topics are really related, and that is if you could kind of give us some highlights of what you think have the propensity to score best on the state infrastructure grants and then also the state capital budget. Broadly speaking, what have the best chances of getting funding in both those grant programs?
Thank you for that question, and what an opportunity this is with the community, the one-time community projects and what has now become cyclical with the state capital bill. I'll have Joe come up here to talk a little bit about it.
I figured Joe might be making.
Right, I
his
know
way
that
up.
with the capital projects, we anticipate that to be very similar to the last time. So Delaware and its communities have been very familiar going after those dollars. With the community projects, they want to accomplish things that aren't plans and studies. They want to do some one-time big infusions. They want to leverage other funds for the community. So, Joe, do you want to talk about how we're helping with this? Yeah.
Thank you, William, and good question, Commissioner. So one item specifically that MORPC and our communities have been successful at the past few capital budget cycles are with trails. Think quality of life. A lot of legislators are viewing trails as quality of life meets economic development. And so we've had a lot of success there. Just the previous cycle, we had 4 different trails that were funded in the region. And then in addition to that, I would think workforce. Down in Lincoln County, the workforce, Lincoln County, Fairfield County, the workforce center there also was instrumental in the previous cycle as well. So I think, every 2 years, there's a little bit different thinking given the turnover in leadership. But one thing we've found very consistent the past 4 to 6 years are trails.
We should add, thanks, Joe. MORPC's partnered with the Columbus Partnership, which is the group of our CEO leaders around Central Ohio. Typically, we partner with them on the state capital bill to make sure that key projects are getting on that list. I know that we'll be looking at these community projects funds the same way. MORPC's role at that table is to make sure that all of the region is getting that assistance on lobbying or support letters or those kind of things. So that doesn't answer necessarily which projects are the best for the county right now to go after, and we can get you the lists. But knowing that we'll be reaching out to communities here in the next few weeks, and meetings start in December, I think, right? Yeah, where we're intentionally looking at which projects are important regionally and locally. So a lot more to come on that, and we're happy to share all the information that we have on it.
Okay, great.
I just want to tag on to Commissioner Benton's comment about infrastructure. To go back about 2 years ago, I was in a meeting, and we left that meeting with the idea that our limiting factor was water, and county did what it could to facilitate that, at least in one area of our county. And then we wake up and discover that, well, maybe that's not the limiting factor, depending on the industry that might be looking at us. We learned that electricity may be the issue. And that's pretty frustrating. And then, of course, we know we have an issue in the sewer area that we're trying to address, and we have to go through a lot of gauntlets to get to the ultimate destination, and we're optimistic we'll get there. So infrastructure is extremely important, and our county is extremely important to the state and to the development, and we need all the help we can get in these very critical areas. So that's more like an editorial comment. But I guess my point is we thought water was the issue, and we find out that maybe that's not the issue. So just that observation.
Well, thank you for that, commissioners, on that topic. And I think water still is an issue, but the emerging,
Well, I'm not saying it's not the
I
issue.
understand,
We found something to at least assist in the short term with that.
Yeah,
My point is it's bigger than just one issue.
yeah. Thank you. I hear you loud and clear. And I think especially from the economic development side of infrastructure, that's something we can look into. Again, electricity is something we haven't been as focused on. Natural gas has been, but certainly I think that's a big part of this. So thank you. We'll continue to look at that issue. So.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments? As always, William, thank you. Joe?
Thank you for the time
Diane,
this morning.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming up and updating us. It's always good to have the partnership active and engaged.
Great. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we do need to go into
We
executive session.
do. Resolution number 23-974, in the matter of adjourning into executive session for consideration of appointment of a public employee or public official and for pending or imminent litigation.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion, vote?
Vote on motion 23-974. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye. All right, we're now in executive